The Death Korps of Krieg, comprising of Astra Militarum regiments hailing from the desolated death world of Krieg in the Segmentum Tempestus, specialises in warfare amidst ruin. These soldiers are frequently dispatched to war zones within Segmentum Tempestus and the Segmentum Solar, showcasing exceptional prowess in prolonged trench combat, sieges of fortified strongholds, and engagements in hazardous environments marked by biological, chemical, and radioactive threats. Krieg became the epicenter of rebellion against the Imperium of Man around 1500 standard years ago, during the 40th millennium. This uprising led to a devastating series of events. The planet was subjected to nuclear bombardment, plunging it into 500 years of relentless conflict between loyalists and traitors in a bid to eradicate the heretical insurgents. The aftermath of this prolonged strife left Krieg a desolate wasteland, a scorched and radioactive world blanketed in dust and mud. Its surviving inhabitants sought refuge in subterranean hive cities to endure the toxic and hostile conditions. The Death Korps of Krieg, a specialised militarum regiment within the Astra Militarum, emerged from this chaos. These regiments, originating from Krieg, strive to make amends for their people's past betrayal by displaying an unsettling disregard for their own lives in battle. Renowned for excelling in defensive warfare and enduring wars of attrition, these soldiers possess a grim, fatalistic demeanour, fearlessly navigating through some of the most harrowing war zones, saturated with radiation, toxins, and enduring years-long sieges marked by astronomical casualty rates. Most Imperial Guardsmen from Krieg, excluding vehicle crews, don advanced respirator units, a poignant reminder of their world's poisoned legacy and an emblem of Krieg's unwavering service to the Imperium. In the year 433 of the 40th millennium, the once loyal world of Krieg declared independence, forsaking the God Emperor's glory. Colonel Yerton, leading the 83rd Krieg Regiment of the Astra Militarum, rallied those loyal to the Imperium and retaliated against the rebellion by resorting to atomic bombardment, forever altering the fate of the planet. Following the 500-year turmoil of atomic devastation, vast trench warfare, and relentless artillery assaults, Krieg's secession attempt was quelled, albeit at a significant price. The planet was transformed into a desolate, irradiated wasteland scarcely fit for human habitation. Survivors sought refuge in subterranean bunkers and tunnels spread across the ravaged world, unable to tread its surface without protective gear. Driven by a desire to make amends for their government's betrayal and devoid of resources for the imperial tithe, the people of Krieg offered their sole remaining asset, manpower. For generations acclimated to war in an atomic wasteland, the Krieg populace was primed to serve as Imperial Guardsmen across the galaxy. Trained amidst irradiated ruins, equipped for hostile environments, and instilled with principles of self-sacrifice and penance, Krieg regiments voluntarily embarked, often requesting deployment to some of the deadliest war zones, from the toxic ash wastes encircling hive cities to grueling wars of attrition and protracted sieges. These soldiers exhibited an unparalleled resolve in serving the Imperium's direst needs. The Krieg are renowned for their sombre demeanour and unwavering resolve, refusing retreat or surrender. These soldiers confront battle without fear of death, seemingly valuing their lives minimally. They view themselves as mere tools for the Emperor's cause, hidden behind anonymous rebreather masks, considering self-sacrifice as their utmost virtue. Shaped by Krieg's tumultuous history, these troops are driven by a fervent cultural desire for redemption, fostering a cult of sacrifice that surpasses the disregard for individual lives seen in other Militarum regiments. Raised in war-centric underground facilities, Krieg regiments undergo rigorous training to extreme levels, showcasing an emotionless disposition that suits siege and trench warfare perfectly. In combat, the unyielding determination of the Death Korps troops wears down adversaries, while their leaders unhesitatingly deploy the next wave of soldiers already engaged in the fight. Other regiments often struggle to integrate seamlessly with the Krieg, frequently encountering morale issues. Commissars assigned to Krieg units have an unconventional task, not solely maintaining order and fervour, but also mediating interactions between Krieg and non-Krieg forces, aiming to restrain the self-sacrificial tendencies of Krieg soldiers. Considering Krieg's diminished population, it's remarkable that they sustain significant guardsman numbers, despite the entire world's focus dedicated solely to this objective. Persistent rumours abound regarding unnatural methods employed to bolster birth rates and recruit soldiers artificially, ensuring a continuous supply of troops willing to sacrifice for the Emperor's cause. Despite the absence of evidence from the Adeptus Mechanicus investigations, speculation persists. Additionally, it is widely believed that the average age of a Krieg infantryman is notably lower compared to other worlds. Some authorities suggest that these soldiers concealed behind rebreather masks might not have reached physical maturity, hinting at a possible concealment of their youthful traits. The early history of Krieg, once a prosperous hive world in Segmentum Tempestus, is shrouded in murky rumours, allegory and sinister myth. Lost to time are the grim details of its rebellion and betrayal. This bustling hive world, teeming with billions engaged in trade and manufacturing, now lies engulfed in a wasteland of shattered cities amidst a poison-laden landscape. Once abundant in riches, the ruling elite, known as the Council of Autocrats, presided over a decadent society. Corruption and vice thrived within this oligarchy, growing increasingly reclusive and decadent. Fearing threats to their authoritarian rule, they diverted substantial resources into fortifying their hive cities, fostering private armies and erecting defensive barriers around their world. More concerning was their resentment toward the Imperial Administratum's influence and the hefty tithes imposed by the Departamento Munitorum. They argued that these resources were vital for their defense, a sentiment that was lost on the oblivious citizens of Krieg. Unbeknownst to them, the unchecked misrule of their leaders was steering them toward impending devastation. In the year 433 of the 40th millennium, Krieg's downfall was orchestrated by the High Autocrat, an individual so reviled that his name has been expunged from imperial records by an edict of obliteration. This figurehead serving as the High Autocrat of Krieg's primary hive city and the de facto planetary governor, proclaimed martial law across Krieg, declaring the planet's independence from the Imperium of Man. He renounced allegiance to the Emperor of Mankind, sparking an immediate and violent civil war between the heretical traitors supporting him and the steadfast Imperial loyalists among Krieg's populace. The rebels swiftly overran much of Krieg, except for Hive Ferrograd, commanded by Colonel Yerton of the 83rd Krieg Regiment of the Astra Militarum, who staunchly remained loyal to the Emperor. Reacting to the revolt, Colonel Yerton seized control of Hive Ferrograd in a decisive military takeover, transforming it into a bastion for the remaining loyalist factions. However, the loyalists faced a dire situation, vastly outnumbered by millions of rebel forces. Ferrograd became isolated and besieged. The Loyalists found themselves isolated with the planetary defences firmly in the traitor hands. The Segmentum command conveyed that a fleet of the necessary scale to invade Krieg wouldn't be dispatched. Colonel Yerton's orders were clear: resist using all available means, confront the enemy, and emerge victorious, regardless of the sacrifices required. Faced with overwhelming odds, Colonel Yerton made a pivotal decision. Krieg would either belong to the Emperor or fall to oblivion. Beneath Hive Ferrograd, in a clandestine Adeptus Mechanicus facility, Colonel Yerton and the loyal Mechanicus ally, Archmagos Greel, sought to unlock forbidden ancient weapons. Meanwhile, within Ferrograd's besieged walls, the defenders toiled on a desperate plan as the siege raged outside. On the day commemorating the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension, Colonel Yerton executed his meticulously planned counterstrike, unleashing atomic weapons to cleanse the planet of its heretical population. Helplessly watched by traitor forces, Yerton's ballistic missiles soared high into the stratosphere, exploding in blinding flashes, releasing lethal isotopes that coated the world in a deadly radioactive fallout. For days, Krieg was engulfed in a nuclear inferno, its already fragile ecosystem collapsing. Countless billions perished due to the fires blocking out the sun and the ensuing nuclear winter. To future generations, Yerton's ruthless act would be remembered as the Purging. Although Krieg transformed into a desolate wasteland, the Purging levelled the battlefield. The Loyalists prepared for the assault fared better than the traitors, yet the civil war persisted. Survivors of Yerton's nuclear assault were forced to survive underground or within radioactive chem wastes, a plight continuing through descendants to this day. For Imperial authorities, Krieg became an irredeemable casualty, a regrettable entry into the Administratum's records. Krieg evolved into a man-made death world, locked in a freezing radioactive grip. The brutal war endured between surviving secessionist and loyalist troops, transforming the planet into a landscape of endless trenches, razor wire and shell craters blanketed by radioactive fallout ash and unburied remains. The precise toll of these centuries-long civil conflicts remains unknown. Colonel Yerton eventually met his end, unrecorded in history, but his followers' descendants persevered, growing as resolute as they were callous. War became their perpetual existence, raised to fight from birth until death. The warriors, shrouded in greatcoats and vapour masks, navigated Krieg's irradiated wastelands and ravaged cities, earning the moniker Death Korps. Their sole purpose, enduring the infernal planetary surface, fulfilling their duty, and killing in the Emperor's name. Over 15 generations of brutal attrition, the Loyalists gradually reclaimed their ravaged world, trench by trench, tunnel by tunnel, employing bayonets, brutality, and when necessary, atomic force. After over 500 harrowing years of unimaginable warfare and immeasurable human sacrifice, Krieg belonged to the Death Korps. From this protracted conflict and the unique culture it fostered, emerged the tradition of labelling Astra Militarum regiments from Krieg as the Death Korps. Finally, in the year 949 of the 40th millennium, Krieg was fully reinstated into the Imperial domain. Following Krieg's reintegration into Imperial rule without much celebration, the Departamento Munitorum took notice. With Krieg indebted, a new demand for troops in the Astra Militarum was imposed. Surprisingly, the Krieg authorities offered not 1 but 20 fully formed, trained and equipped regiments for immediate deployment. Each commander requested assignments in the most perilous Imperial war zones available. During the 5 centuries of continuous warfare, Krieg remained industrious. Beneath the desolate surface, extensive subterranean cities were established, kilometers of bunkers and passages dug, and an underground industry dedicated to arms production, particularly soldiers, thrived. These soldiers proved as relentless as the factories that armed them, and as merciless as their irradiated world. Responding swiftly to the Departamento Munitorum's urgent need for troops, the newly formed Death Korps regiments were swiftly integrated into the Astra Militarum. They were reorganized, provided with commissars, and promptly dispatched into combat. Despite initial apprehensions among some regiments they served alongside, the deployment of Death Korps units proved immediately successful. In war zones mirroring the devastation of their homeworld, the Death Korps regiments showcased superior performance compared to other Imperial Guard units. Their unmatched resilience and effectiveness in such horrific environments further solidified their reputation within the Astra Militarum. In worlds plagued by radioactive wastelands, chemical and biological hazards, and polluted ash-ridden terrain, Astra Militarum commanders swiftly recognized the strategic advantage of deploying the Death Korps. They were instrumental in breaking stalemates and achieving advancements that would otherwise demand substantial resources, such as penal legion troops or esteemed elite forces like the Adeptus Astartes. After Krieg's autonomy was quashed and it fell directly under the Departamento Munitorum's jurisdiction, maximum tithe requisitions were imposed. Krieg's primary focus became churning out Death Korps soldiers akin to mining ore or harvesting wheat on other planets. The High Lords of Terror explicitly ordered that nothing should impede this purpose. This directive led to the tolerance of questionable practices. Some, like eugenic policies to root out mutations resulting from Krieg's ravaged radioactive biosphere and universal conscription, echoed measures once necessitated during Krieg's lengthy civil war. Remarkably, Krieg produces an unusually high number of Astra Militarum regiments for a devastated planet. This is attributed to the mandated use of the Vitae womb birthing technique, a method exclusively sanctioned for Krieg due to their renowned resolve, unwavering loyalty to the Emperor, and their resolute nature. However, this technique remains largely unfamiliar beyond the officio medicae, and is viewed as perilous and abhorrent by many Adeptus Mechanicus Magi biologists. At present, Krieg stands as a true war world, offering no industrial or agricultural contributions to the Emperor, but instead presenting its populace as tithes to fight in the Astra Militarum. The planet's tithes reach the maximum limit for its population, consistently raising dozens of regiments each standard year, a stark contrast to other worlds of similar size that might only tithe one regiment every 10 years. The attrition rate and devastation faced by these regiments are disproportionately high, given their deployment to the most perilous battlefronts and hazardous worlds known to humanity. Despite the extreme challenges, the Death Korps has showcased remarkable effectiveness, securing victories against overwhelming odds through bloody sacrifice, unyielding perseverance, aggression, and unwavering loyalty. However, despite their impressive service history, Krieg units face a lack of favour among Astra Militarum commanders. These troops are perceived as grim and reserved, excessively accepting of high casualties, even among their leaders, and challenging to interact with for non-Krieg personnel. Yet in the unending warfare characterising the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the Imperium of Man desperately relies on such troops. The use and quantity of Death Korps regiments are increasing, with the Departamento Munitorum channeling elevated resources toward their formation, recognising the dire need for their unwavering commitment on the battlefield. Originally, there were no plans for Death Korps regiments to serve in the Spinward front within the Calixis sector, making their recent arrival quite unexpected. Instead, a multitude of Death Korps regiments comprised of siege infantry, armoured units and artillery were earmarked from Krieg to be deployed to Vrax Prime in the Scarus sector, a planet under the dominion of forces led by the renegade Cardinal Astra Zaffin. Millions of Krieg soldiers had already been transported to Vrax, initiating the initial stages of a siege campaign intended to endure a solar decade. However, for undisclosed reasons known solely to the Departamento Munitorum's chroniclers, a considerable amount of these Krieg regiments were redirected. Given their proximity to Vrax, the diverted regiments were rerouted to the Spinward front. In the year 816 of the 41st millennium, 30 Krieg regiments arrived on Calf, awaiting their assigned orders. The majority of these regiments were dispatched to Kulf, while others were sent to reinforce ongoing conflicts across various worlds. These deployments included bastions on Ashen, the Orc-controlled manufactories of Asterion, the subterranean mines of Verbius, and the inhospitable dual nature of Janus, where freezing nights contrast with scorching days. The Krieg regiments bolstered the ongoing battles on these diverse and challenging fronts within the Spinward territories. Recruiting members for the regiments of the Death Korps of Krieg follows a process similar to many other Imperial worlds across the Imperium, relying on conscription based on various circumstances. While their rigorous training methods, combat doctrines and regimental organisation align with other Imperial Guard units, The Death Korps stands out for the extremity and uniqueness in their approach. Selected and rigorously trained from an early age for their destined roles as Imperial Guardsmen, Death Korps recruits face high rates of fatality and injury during their training. The training regimen is unrelentingly harsh, swiftly separating the resilient from the weak, as fear and frailty find no place within their ranks. The mental and emotional fortitude of prospective guardsmen is intentionally reshaped, paralleling the physical endurance built to withstand suffering that would overwhelm ordinary individuals, a process inherently initiated by surviving life on blighted Krieg. Amidst the desolate remnants of radiation-scarred battlefields, the training regiments engage in marches, trench digging, minefield clearing, and simulated battles against fellow cadets. Only those who endure such trials are deemed suitable to join the Death Korps. This stringent selection process ensures the regiment maintains its renowned discipline and selflessness in combat. Gas masks become a second skin as soldiers are trained to operate with them indefinitely if needed. New recruits are ingrained with a deep-seated fear of failing the Imperium and their comrades, alongside an unwavering dedication to duty, honour, and the Emperor. Mental conditioning forms a crucial aspect of their training, preparing Death Korps troops to confront the countless horrors on Imperial battlefields and beyond, ensuring their readiness for any challenge they may face. The core ethos of the Death Korps of Krieg originates from the planet's harrowing civil war, a time where survival demanded a society that could not afford to harbour weakness. This cult of sacrifice mindset, persisting to this day, profoundly influences every facet of the Death Korps' combat doctrine and organisation, rooted in a culture shaped entirely by war. Raised solely for warfare and steeped in ceaseless conflict, successive generations of troops have come to embrace death in service to the Emperor as their ultimate purpose. This unwavering dedication remains embedded within Krieg Guardsmen, ready to offer themselves as sacrifices to the God Emperor. For Krieg commanders, victory is secured through the relentless application of overwhelming force. Their doctrine dictates that a battle is already won if their resolve to fight and readiness to die surpasses that of their adversary. Everything else becomes a matter of time and attrition. The soldiers' unwavering faith in the God Emperor is instilled early, fostering a culture that fervently accepts willing sacrifice and martial dedication, renowned for their unwavering resolve even in the face of imminent death. The Krieg soldiers view their demise in combat as collective penance for the ancient heresies of their forebears. Specialising in trench and siege warfare, they thrive in prolonged conflicts of attrition. Known for volunteering for the most perilous war zones across the Imperium, the Death Korps of Krieg have earned a formidable reputation. Excelling in trench and siege warfare, they've participated in diverse campaigns, such as the Taros campaign, the Third War for Armageddon, the Atria Wilderness campaign, and the Vorens III campaign, showcasing their relentless dedication and combat prowess. Counted upon more than other Imperial regiments to stand firm, they favour concentrated offensives, employing massive assaults with artillery support during advances. In situations where mass offensives are impractical or enemy positions need weakening, Krieg regiments are adept at raiding entrenched positions. Their unwavering loyalty and ruthless dedication in warfare, a reputation that reverberates across the galaxy, stem notably from the atomic purging executed by the 83rd Krieg Infantry Regiment under Colonel Yerton's command during the Krieg Civil War, an event deeply cherished by the Death Korps of Krieg, especially the 83rd, as a testament to their commitment. Krieg routinely raises regiments in considerable numbers, each regiment's form and structure varying based on Departamento Munitorum directives and the prevailing strategic demands. The planet provides the manpower, while the Departamento Munitorum configures these forces into diverse regimental types. Among these formations, infantry, mechanized infantry, and armoured regiments exist, but the predominant use of Krieg's manpower is in the creation of siege regiments. It is within these units that the Death Korps' doctrine of total war finds its fullest expression. What truly distinguishes Death Korps of Krieg regiments is not merely their equipment, but their mindset. Regardless of their designated roles, they embody the Death Korps' hallmark traits: unwavering discipline, exceptional endurance, and expertise in trench warfare, and notably an acceptance of high casualty rates and readiness to operate in hazardous war zones. The organisational framework of Krieg regiments aligns with the established command structure of the Astra Militarum as stipulated by the Departamento Munitorum. While adhering to this standard system, there are slight regional differences in insignias and titles. For instance, infantry sergeants bear the title Watchmaster, while sergeants within the Death Rider companies are referred to as Ride Masters. Death Korps officers, including those in regimental command, tend to lead and engage directly in battle, a reflection not of a deliberate decision, but an embodiment of the Death Korps ethos. Every Krieg guardsman anticipates fighting and sacrificing for the Emperor. Consequently, officers commonly equip themselves for frontline combat with grenades, potent sidearms, and either a chainsword or power sword. Command squads display their squad insignia, a C denoting command, on their right shoulder, while their helmets often feature an ornate Imperial aquila. Unlike some other Imperial regiments that hail from worlds with entrenched militaristic traditions like the Mordians or Jantines, Krieg lacks a standing aristocracy or hereditary officer class. Instead, officers emerge from the ranks. Consequently, the bulk of the Death Korps officers ascended through ability, seniority, and most importantly, sheer survival. Familiar with the Death Korps' unforgiving warfare, they show little regard for high casualties. This attitude has sometimes caused morale issues when senior Krieg officers assumed command of non-Krieg regiments in broader theatres of war. In a distinctive display of their culture, Krieg regiments don't award medals or decorations, as Krieg soldiers perceive such honours as insignificant. Bravery is an anticipated and ordinary trait, hence Death Korps guardsmen aren't distinguished with special rewards. Additionally, up to regimental command level, Death Korps officers often adopt numeral designations for expediency over their own names. For example, officers may be referred to as Major Alpha of the 1st Company, Major Gamma of the 3rd Company, or Colonel 186 for the leader of the 186th Regiment. Commissars mandated by the Departamento Militarum regulations are the only non-Krieg natives serving in Death Korps regiments. With relatively low rates of infractions and morale issues among Death Korps units, these commissars predominantly function to temper any excessive zeal within the troops. They often act as tactical advisors rather than strict enforcers of discipline. Assigned to a Death Korps regiment, commissars hold a strategic position, serving as voices of restraint for Death Korps officers. They reinforce broader war zone objectives over short-term victories achieved through excessive troop and material expenditure, which might be necessary for later engagements. In theatres of war, where Death Korps units fight alongside other Imperial formations, commissars attached to Death Korps staff ensure they act as liaisons between regimental commands, preventing potential conflicts between Death Korps and other Imperial Guardsmen deployed in the same areas. This role includes monitoring and averting any brewing tensions between the forces. Grenadiers form a potent elite force within the expansive Death Korps ranks. Selected from infantry squads, they're often chosen by their watchmaster or a commissar, recommended for elevation as a grenadier. Additionally, they can be drawn from veterans or survivors of decimated squads and platoons. Although not a promotion in terms of rank, Grenadiers carry a seniority based on experience and veteran status, distinct from regular guardsmen. Joining a Grenadier squad is both a privilege and a duty, yet it comes with exceptionally high casualty rates. Even though service in the heavy infantry is esteemed, it is considered an obligation rather than a choice. Upon appointment to a Grenadier squad, a Krieg soldier adopts the skull face mask, symbolising acceptance of their fate. Notably, a soldier appointed to the Grenadier squad cannot refuse the assignment, understanding the implied acknowledgement of their impending fate. Statistically, the mortality rate among Grenadiers is staggering, with 8 out of 10 meeting their end in combat. Those wearing these skull masks have embraced the notion that they are already living a life destined for sacrifice. Much like the Grenadiers, engineers play a specialised role within Krieg campaigns. This corps provides expert knowledge in subterranean warfare, excelling in the construction of shafts, tunnels and saps to undermine enemy fortifications and execute surprise raids behind enemy lines. Engineer squads from Krieg are equipped with a range of technical gear in addition to standard equipment tailored to their speciality. As both soldiers and miners, they advance from the front lines, digging deep shafts to bypass enemy defences, placing large explosive mines beneath positions or creating sap trenches. Saps, shallow tunnels just below the surface, enable squads to breach the surface quickly and assault enemy positions without traversing no man's land. Engineers are also trained and authorised to utilise chemical weaponry. When necessary, they carry small gas canister grenades, deploying highly corrosive gas during assaults to envelop the enemy. While these are weapons of last resort, they have contributed to the fearsome reputation of Krieg regiments, showcasing their unwavering determination. A Death Korps Watchmaster serves as a non-commissioned officer equivalent to a sergeant in other Imperial Guard regiments. Within these siege regiments, infantry platoons comprise the primary manpower. A siege regiment typically includes 5 companies, each divided into 10 infantry platoons and 1 heavy weapons platoon. The company is overseen by a Death Korps captain, aided by a veteran watchmaster. An infantry platoon, consisting of a command squad and up to 6 infantry squads, is led by watchmasters who assume the role of squad leaders. Assisted by a senior guardsman, typically the most experienced member, watchmasters are deeply ingrained in the martial traditions of the Corps, having undergone indoctrination from birth. Proficient with Imperial Guard weaponry, they particularly excel in bayonet combat and often employ bayonet charges in battle. Fearless themselves, watchmasters fearlessly lead their squads through no man's land to assail enemy trenches and defences. They expect nothing less than unwavering commitment to duty and fearlessness from their troops. Each Death Korps soldier undergoes comprehensive training as per the Departamento Militarum's combat readiness standards. Special emphasis is placed on survival in hazardous environments, physical and mental resilience, and endurance. Proficient in various Imperial Guard weaponry, including grenades and explosives, a Death Korps soldier excels in swiftly constructing trenchworks and defences. They are skilled in hand-to-hand combat, having practiced bayonet drills since childhood. In Death Korps weapons training, emphasis is placed on fire discipline over accuracy. The ability to maintain continuous massed fire within an infantry formation is deemed paramount. Death Korps guardsmen often display a tendency towards introversion, emotional restraint, and an inclination towards silence outside of their duties. Additionally, they exhibit a high degree of fatalism and an uncommon habit of carrying relics, bone ossuaries, or other memento mori to honour those who sacrificed their lives in service to the God Emperor. The Death Riders of Krieg resemble the Rough Rider cavalry units in appearance, but stand out as one of the distinctive formations within the Krieg forces. A notable aspect of these units is their mounts, the Krieg steeds, a result of extensive genetic engineering from the original Terran horse. These creatures are specifically engineered for strength, endurance, and aggression. Bred in vats on Krieg under Adeptus Mechanicus supervision, they undergo augmentation, including subdermal organic armor, specialized lungs, and a drug injection system delivering stimulants, pain blockers, and other medications. This transformation grants the Krieg steed remarkable endurance and adaptability to survive in the most polluted and toxic battlefields. The Death Riders constitute a specialized group within Krieg regiments, chosen not only for their abilities but also for their independent thinking and initiative. Many future Death Korps officers emerge from the ranks of these survivors. Armed with various sidearms, saber blades, and the distinctive explosive tipped lance, the Death Riders play a unique role within the Krieg forces. Within Death Korps regiments, the quartermasters serve a distinctive and rare role, different from the battlefield medics prevalent in most Imperial Guard units. Originating from Krieg's tumultuous history, their duty stems from the importance placed on salvaging arms and gear from fallen soldiers during the brutal civil conflict. Field medicine and triage were considered luxuries, as seriously wounded soldiers were viewed as liabilities. For those unable to return to battle or retreat on their own, an honourable field execution, known as the Emperor's Peace, was granted. This solemn responsibility, alongside the recovery of soldiers' equipment, became the duty of the Quartermaster Cadre, a role that persists to this day. Quartermasters are chosen from the Death Korps ranks based on their unwavering faith in the God Emperor, mental acuity, and occasionally from individuals who have survived against tremendous odds. These individuals undergo additional training in field medicine, basic technical skills, and thorough indoctrination into the specific beliefs of Krieg's sect of the Imperial cult. In terms of uniform and equipment, the Death Korps bear resemblance to the Armageddon Steel Legion, but lean towards darker hues, often incorporating skull motifs into their masks. They exude a grave and fatalistic aura, both in appearance and mentality, shaped by the 500-year-long civil war that ravaged their nuclear wasteland homeworld. While the uniform's cut and design remains largely uniform across the Death Korps, colour variations may exist among different regiments. Notably, officers tend to sport slightly more ornate attire compared to the standard soldiers. Though the iconic spiked helmets are renowned among the Death Korps troops, their practical usage in the field is infrequent. Nevertheless, many soldiers maintain this tradition by improvising spikes or, in rarer instances, inheriting older spiked helmet patterns that have endured through generations within their families. The standard wargear used by the Death Korps of Krieg mirrors the temperament of its citizens: practical, utilitarian, and bereft of ostentation, differing notably from the flamboyant armament of other Imperial Guard units. At the heart of their armament lies the Lucius pattern lasgun, boasting a higher charge power pack for increased penetration. This upgrade, however, results in a shorter clip life of merely 25 shots, coupled with a slower recharge rate. Yet Krieg commanders laud its augmented stopping power, often outweighing these drawbacks. The weapon's signature heatsink rings dissipate the excessive heat generated, while the stock and foregrip commonly feature synthetic wood, occasionally replaced by metallic variants. Accompanying these lasguns are 6 lasgun charge packs, providing power equivalent to the weapon's full clip value, fundamental for sustaining combat. Flak armour, the quintessential protective gear across the Imperial Guard, forms the standard issue for Krieg troops. Layered with ablative and impact-resistant materials, it efficiently deflects most low-level attacks, but can succumb to high-impact hits. Despite its vulnerabilities, its lightweight construction, cost-effectiveness, and reliability ensure its continued use among veterans. Equipped with a mono knife, a specialised blade with an enduringly sharp edge, Death Korps soldiers are proficient in both bayonet combat and utility purposes. This tool serves as a staple part of their kit, emphasising their readiness for close quarters engagements. Further enhancing their survivability, soldiers don the Death Korps of Krieg Imperial Guard uniform and utilise respirators for protection against toxins and chemical assaults. The Death Korps infantry is rounded out with a diverse array of gear, including fragmentation grenades, flash grenades, smoke grenades, weather-resistant attire, entrenching tools, rucksacks, mess kits, photon screamers, illumination packs, grooming kits, dog tags, sleeping equipment, and the Imperial Infantryman's Uplifting Primer, an indispensable guide covering everything from guard principles and weaponry to medical instructions and the adversaries of the Imperium. Each item serves a purpose in ensuring the adaptability, resilience, and readiness of the Death Korps soldiers across various combat scenarios and environmental challenges they might encounter in service to the God Emperor. Death Korps units exhibit a predilection for melter guns and heavy bolters as primary heavy weapons, while maintaining access to an assortment of other armaments, including mortars, heavy stubbers, las cannons, autocannons, and flamers. In line with the norm among Imperial Guardsmen, Death Korps infantry standardly wield the reliable las gun, often complemented by an extra las pistol for added versatility in combat scenarios. There's also the ubiquitous combat knife, an indispensable tool for every Death Korps member. It doubles not only as a bayonet for close-quarter combat, but it also serves various field-related functions, embodying the practicality inherent in the Death Korps' approach to warfare.